All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started this morning. We actually have a lot planned for you and are excited to share more about the journey that our HSI Fellows ventured this past year. So thank you on behalf of the University of Arizona for joining us this morning. My name is Marla Franco, and I serve as the inaugural Vice President for Hispanic Serving Institution Initiatives at the University of Arizona. And we officially welcome you to the 2023 HSI Fellows Impact Presentations, which we have hosted every single year for the 5 cohorts of fellows that we've had thus far in this program. I am beyond excited to present to you all this 5th cohort of HSI Fellows. They are excited to showcase their time, talents, and leadership of U of A HSI initiatives. They're very excited. They've also been preparing these presentations for you. But before we actually proceed any further in the program, I want to make sure that we ground ourselves this morning really with reverence to the spaces that we occupy. We gather today as guests on the land and territories of Indigenous peoples. And here in Arizona, being home to the O'odham and the Yaqui. We center our time together this morning in a way that honors both people and place. And for those of you who are joining us elsewhere, I invite you to think about the land in which you are occupying. Today, though, we are joined by many guests here at the University of Arizona, including HSI Fellows from across all 5 cohorts. We also have several guests from other Hispanic Serving Institutions, emerging HSIs, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and other professional organizations such as All in Education, the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities, and the Alliance of Hispanic Serving Institution Educators. We actually have close to 150 registrants, and I think Monique's update earlier this morning notified me that we actually exceeded that. We are recording this presentation for those who may not have been able to join us right at the start. But we thank you all for joining us today. This program really has quickly developed into a well-revered program that really helps strengthen equity-focused leadership capacity here at the University of Arizona that is anchored in our identity as a Hispanic serving institution. Really shifting from an initial investment in a pilot program several years ago to actually becoming a permanently funded program by the University of Arizona. Certainly big thanks to our partners in Faculty Affairs and Human Resources, and several of you who actually served as session facilitators and guests. And of course, nothing would be possible without the assistance and support of Monique Beltran, who provides administrative support and really all the special touches to make this program what it is. We will have some time in the session today later for Q&A and discussion. So we really want you to get prepared for that segment of this morning. But throughout the presentations, I really do invite you to use the chat feature to introduce yourself and also to express your thoughts and sentiments and start posing questions so that we can draw from that repository there. So now, before we get started with our fellows, I'm really excited to welcome my dear colleague and friend, Diane Brennan, who serves as the Assistant Vice President of Human Resources. This morning, she's going to be providing us with a brief welcome and a few remarks on behalf of the university. She really has been a consistent supporter of HSI initiatives and really was at the table from day one as we dreamt up this program. So thank you so much for being here, Diane. I certainly invite you to unmute yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Marla. It is with gratitude and profound pride in being here with you that I welcome you all as well to this HSI presentation, impact presentation session. As Marla said, so I started at the university in 2017 and met Marla fairly soon after that. I was in a different role within human resources, but the seeds that Marla planted, the early stages of what was being thought about were, I'm just grateful to have had the opportunity to work with you and listen and try to help create this. And as you said, it's been a remarkable journey. I think initially the pilot program, we could tell stories around how, as anyone who's been in an institution or organization knows, it is not easy to take something from the idea into action. And here we are, five cohorts later, with a program that has not just inspired and built this community, but is actually inspiring and allowing the university to take other actions, whether it's with employees, with faculty, with staff, and with students, to build a more equitable and inclusive community. And it's all of you. I look around the room and see many of our past cohort members and then our current cohort, as well as those who have supported the journey along. And so it is really wonderful to see the work and how taking a collective vision, taking this idea that Marla started with and building the awareness and the community and the support around it and all the people that have been involved in the process to become really the program that it is today. And I know it's more than I think even what you imagined, Marla. Maybe the dream was there, but it has grown in ways that I think I said earlier, apologize if I did, but it's worth repeating that this program has had an impact internally within the University of Arizona, but also as seen by our guests from around the country, it has had an impact elsewhere as well. So today's impact presentation is a celebration of our cohort's achievements, where we can listen, learn, be inspired, and celebrate, and look at how we can take what we learn here and take it further in our community and into the world. This is a bright spot in what often seems like a very challenging place to be and live, not just within the university, but in the world. So I'd ask you all to, embrace this opportunity, open our hearts and minds, and really celebrate our cohort, our program, our community here, and think about, not just what they've achieved and where they're at, but what possibilities are ahead. And in the work that I do today, please reach out if there is something that we can do or that you see. I value having this partnership with Marla and the HSI Fellowship Program, and look forward to seeing how we continue to learn and work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. I certainly appreciate, your camaraderie and partnership. One of the things that has been incredibly important is that the HSI Fellows program, as it's developed into a premier leadership development program anchored in advancing equity across campus and beyond, that it has ties to departments like human resources as we think about the well-being and the opportunities that we have to nurture leadership across our university throughout all pockets. And so thank you for your continued partnership and support, Diane. And I certainly look forward to continued collaborations with you. Quickly now, I'm going to pull up a slide that has the amazing faces of our current cohort of fellows, and we'll start some introductions of our fellows. Let's see here. All right, so we're actually going to have Dr. Philip Alejo kick us off, and then we'll move from left to right with some very brief introductions of our fellows.
Good morning, everybody. I'm really happy to see you all here. I'm Philip Alejo. I am in the School of Music, which is part of the College of Fine Arts. I'm an associate professor of music, and I'm also an associate director for equity inclusion at the School of Music. And I've now been here, this is my 11th year.
Good morning, I'm Dr. Celeste Atkins, and I'm an assistant professor of practice in the Graduate College and director of the Initiative to Maximize Student Development Program, which provides support to underrepresented graduate students in the biomedical sciences. I've worked at the University of Arizona since I began my graduate studies in 2017, first as a GA, and then I transitioned to full-time in the summer of 2020. I completed my PhD from the Center for the Study of Higher Education in 2021. So thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Noelle Hennessy, and I'm the Director of Engineering Access, Greater Equity and Diversity in the College of Engineering, and it's nice to see you all today.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. My name is Nicole Maroney. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Speech, Language, and Hearing Sciences, and I'm also the director of graduate studies there for audiology. And this is my 12th year at the University of Arizona.
Good morning, buenos dias. My name is Dr. Alexi Marquez. I use she, her, AR pronouns. I am a native Tucsonan, Chicana scholar, assistant director of education and initiatives, and oversee the financial wellness program at the Thrive Center. I got all of my undergrad, well, all of them, my undergraduate, my master's, and my PhD from the University of Arizona. My PhD is from the College of Education in Educational Leadership and Policy. I can't say I've been here for an exact amount of time because I've never really left, but there was a brief stint where I worked at Bank of America for almost 10 years, but I was still doing things with the University of Arizona. So that's me in a nutshell.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marla Rodriguez. I'm the manager of student data outreach and decision support at Arizona Online. I got my bachelor's degree from the University of Arizona, and I've been employed here ever since for 10 years. Thank you for coming.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Karina Salazar. I am entering my 5th year as an assistant professor in the Center for the Study of Higher Education. I'm also a 3-time alumna of the university and a local Tucsonan.
Wonderful. So thank you all for those short introductions. This is cohort 5 of the HSI Fellows program. So you will see really just kind of the vast array of areas that they represent and really kind of the rich connections that they have both with the University of Arizona and the local community. So you'll hear more from them shortly. All right, so I want to share a little bit about the program itself, just to set some context about what the HSI Fellows actually experience. So certainly we'll share more about the HSI Fellows program, how it came to be, what it's designed to accomplish, and really the notoriety that it's gained in just 5 short years. I've worked in higher education for about 25 years now, with the last 10 of those being here at the University of Arizona, which I'm really excited to have celebrated, you know, kind of that hallmark experience. I came to work here at the University of Arizona in 2013. And back then, it really was a much bigger decision than simply taking on a new job. It meant uprooting myself from California, which is where I'm originally from, and my immediate family, and leaving what I knew to come to a different state to start a new journey. Although it was a time of promise and opportunity, I really yearned for a sense of connection to people and place. I yearned to feel at home and also to really cultivate a meaningful sense of belonging. This took a little longer than I had hoped, but eventually it did come. Fast forward to 2018, and I was at the tail end of participating in the university's Academic Leadership Institute. This is actually where I first met Diane Brennan in human resources. At that time, I had been selected, mentored, trained, challenged, and invested in as a participant of the Academic Leadership Institute. I'm forever grateful for that experience. But once that experience ended, I really did feel ready to do more and give more of myself to this university community and really the community at large. These experiences left me feeling as though I couldn't possibly be the only one who felt this way. At around the same time, there was an opportunity during the summer of 2018 to make a pitch to the interim provost at the time. It was a plan for bringing the HSI designation to life in a thoughtful and intentional way, aimed at building institutional capacity as an HSI by investing in faculty and staff who could then advance HSI efforts from all facets of our university. Essentially, activating stewards and change agents all across our campus. So how do we do this? Each year, we have anywhere from 7 to 10 HSI Fellows and approximately 10 sessions that span the academic year, really engaging one cohort at a time. This isn't just any university-sponsored development program. In this program, you enter as fellows, but you leave as family. The start of the program is a kickoff dinner. And there probably isn't a more meaningful way to welcome and affirm others than to welcome them into your own home. That evening in September each year, we gather around the heart of my home, which is the dinner table, just like I would do with my own family, maybe for a Sunday dinner. On that evening, we eat, we laugh, we cry, we share stories, we become inspired, and we share our hopes collectively for this work. That night really does set the tone for everything else that follows in the program. The other sessions bring an array of equity-focused knowledge holders, both internal and external, to the U of A to share their wisdom, experience, and strategy with us, including university leaders. Dr. Gina Garcia, who is a leading scholar on HSIs, is always so gracious with her time and Zooms in with us. We also involve at times student advocates, local elders, and so many more. These are just a few examples of those who have been brought into the experience to help guide our learning and engagement in the program. Coupled with these sessions, the fellows assembled into 3 smaller groups, and they worked to tackle a gap or challenge aimed at creating blueprints for strengthening our capacity as an HSI. These projects serve as building blocks for cultivating and sustaining university-wide leadership of related work. In fact, I would love to highlight a few fellow prior cohorts to show you how powerful of a ripple effect this program has initiated. What I only dreamed would happen as a result of this program is taking shape here at the U of A. There are so many examples just beyond these 3, and you'll really hear shortly from one of our inaugural fellows in the program, Dr. Vanessa Perry, sorry. So let me share with you a little bit about some of the folks in our HSI Fellows program that have led exceptional work from prior cohorts. So on the top left, you see Dr. Eileen Wong, an associate clinical professor and research audiologist in the College of, who was part of our very first cohort. She leveraged her experiences in the HSI Fellows program to effectuate change and greater understanding within the Department of Speech, Language, and Hearing Sciences. She observed that in the US, only 8% of speech and language and hearing professionals are ethnically or racially diverse. And in the state of Arizona in particular, the gap between Spanish-speaking patients and Spanish-speaking audiologists and pathologists is significant. So what does this mean for an academic program that is preparing the state and nation's next speech, language, and hearing science professionals? Supported by a small grant in our STEM and HSI working group, she and others in her department raised awareness, shifted perspectives, built institutional capacity to guide STEM faculty to actually achieve a more holistic and equitable approach that countered high-stakes review processes when looking at graduate admissions. In 2020, this department discontinued the use of GRE requirements for their master's and doctor of audiology programs, with a commitment to reviewing the policy further for future admission cycles. She and others have a manuscript published that documented the process of navigating this change. The article was published in the field's premier journal, the American Journal of Speech Language Pathology. She and other colleagues were recently awarded a grant from the Patient-Centered Research Institute to enhance the capacity of research teams in conducting culturally responsive and effective patient-centered research by a training blueprint for from authentic community engagement by actually hosting 3 virtual stakeholder convenings, which was actually hosted by the University of Arizona in collaboration with the Mariposa Community Health Center and invited stakeholders from across the country. To our right, Dr. Adrian Arroyo was part of our second HSI Fellows cohort, and currently he serves as the Associate Director of Faculty Affairs. As a fellow, he was instrumental in conducting preliminary research to help us better understand what regional and statewide HSI consortiums existed at that time and what their structure and priorities were. This research was vital to informing the launch of what now is the AZ-HSI Consortium, established in 2021. Since then, the consortium has grown leaps and bounds and was recently awarded a total of nearly $4 million from the National Science Foundation and the Helios Education Foundation to support growth and expansion. Dr. Arroyo was also inspired as a result of the Fellows Program to develop and navigate the approval process to bring a new course to the University of Arizona, focusing on queer and trans Black, Indigenous, Latinx people of color in STEM leadership and success strategies. Ashley Linares Gaffer was part of our second HSI Fellows cohort as well. She's an associate professor of practice in nutritional sciences and the director of student success, retention, and equity in the School of Nutritional Sciences and Wellness. She partnered with faculty from our distance campus in Yuma to respond to gaps and opportunities that actually resulted in an awarded grant from the U.S. Department of Agriculture to increase the number of students completing nutritional science degrees and earning dietetics credentials in Yuma. By introducing a culturally responsive approach of farm to table as medicine experiential learning activities, that will actually help address regional food safety, food security, food production, and the credentialing of cultural cooking traditions. I really could go on and on about the continued impact of HSI Fellows that really far exceeds their involvement in the first initial year of their program. Really, these HSI Fellows are sprinkled across our university and the local community, and really across professional fields, advancing efforts for more equitable and inclusive spaces. So now I would like to shift gears and really turn the spotlight over to our current cohort of HSI Fellows and their projects really that have built up exceptional capacity to advance HSI initiatives here at the University of Arizona. So up next, I would like to invite Dr. Alexi Marquez and Marla Rodriguez to go ahead and take the mic and share a little bit about their project.
Wonderful. All right. I was expecting to go second, so he caught me off guard a little bit. But no worries. So what we did our project on is my coffee hasn't kicked in, y'all. Diving into payment plan fee demographics from a serving-ness lens. Again, my name is Dr. Alexi Marquez. I am the Assistant Director of Education Initiatives overseeing financial wellness at the Thrive Center. So a little bit more about me. As I stated, I am a native Tucsonan, but I am also a first-generation college student. I came to the university during my undergraduate time, and my mom told me, tell everybody you are first gen. I had no idea what that meant. I just know that my mom told me to tell everybody I was first gen. And she's like, it'll get you more money. And I was like, okay, even better, because I was born and raised on the south side of Tucson. And I knew that the gateway to obtaining a change in your social economic status was to go to college. So I was like, hey, everybody, I am a first gen college student and I am low income. And so that is the identity that I led with. I also graduated from Tucson High, so I was also very empowered in my Chicana identity. And in moving through education into the workforce and then coming back to higher education, post-secondary education, I really started to focus on financial components, financial wellness, and financial lens for students who identify with similar identities like myself. So this led me to want to investigate the $75 fee associated with this payment plan that splits tuition payments into 3 equal parts. I had a lot of students at the same time enrolling in this payment plan because it offered, quote unquote, a payment plan. That was it. So with that, I'll send it over to my co-investigator, Marla Rodriguez.
Yes, so my name is Marla. I'm the manager for student data, outreach, and decision support at Arizona Online. And this project was important to me, and why I've resonated so much with Alexi's idea was because I think it encompasses 3 aspects of me as a professional on this campus. The first is my past professional experience as an admissions and recruitment professional, as a financial aid coordinator, and as an academic advisor, where I've learned firsthand the importance of financial literacy and the impact that it has on our students' success. Secondly, it also encompasses, I think, my current professional experience, where I utilize student data to help strategize interventions. And I also think it also fits nicely into a professional career or a professional project, passion project of the framework of servingness and utilizing that and really leaning on it as a Hispanic Serving Institution. So I will pass it off to Alexi to discuss a little bit about the context and initial research of our project.
Thank you, Marla. So we're looking at this payment fee essentially by the numbers at first, even though individually we had our own communication with students, communication with given chosen family of these students. Both Marla and I identify as Pell eligible students. We're both first generation college students. The asterisk there is because here at the University of Arizona, specifically under our First Cats initiative with the Thrive Center, we have an expanded definition. So during the admission process for Arizona students, we ask if either of their parents has a 4-year degree, completed a 4-year bachelor's degree. If they indicate yes or no, 2 no's from their parent, mother and father means that they are first gen. If they indicate that they are a yes, then they are not considered a first generation college student. So that's very important for the numbers that we will go into. And we talked about the identity of being Hispanic or Latinx. So the fee again is $75. From a student lens, what this means is $75 can equate to 7.5. So that's 7.5 meal swipes per a University of Arizona meal plan. This also means that that is 7 days that they can park on campus on the University of Arizona in a garage. So that's 9 days that they could be attending classes. This is 30% of the bookstore course fee material. So this semester, there's a 250 bookstore course fee that is added to students, which is enables them to access all of their books that they need. This is 1% of the guaranteed tuition for incoming Arizona resident students for the fall 2023 cohort. This is 5 minimum wage hours. And last but not least, this can equate to 3 CAP appointments, which is our counseling and mental health services. This is 3 co-payments to attend those services. On the other side, we wanted to be very transparent in the fee history and compare it to our peer institutions. For this, we picked Arizona State University, which currently charges 2.6 times that of the U Arizona fee for out-of-state enrollment plans. So they have an in-state fee and an out-of-state fee to enroll in their 3-part payment plan. NAU, Northern Arizona University, charges 2 times the University of Arizona's fees for their fall and spring semester enrollment plan. The University of Arizona does not auto-enroll students. So this is something that they do need to actually self-enroll in, whereas ASU and NAU do have their students auto-enrolled. Last but not least, the University of Arizona is actually $75 more than that of the University of Florida, as the University of Florida, a peer institution, as well as an emerging HSI, does not have a payment plan option for their students. What they look to do is you make a payment, it goes to the oldest payment due, and that is how payments are dispersed on their bursar's account. It is also important to talk about this fee is that the Arizona Board of Regents, ABOR, did indicate in our research that a reasonable amount is available for Arizona institutions and universities to charge for in-house or outsourced payments to complete, utilize, institute their enrollment payment plan.
So as we tackled this project, we knew that it would be important to rely on the content knowledge and collaboration of a few expert units on campus. So we really relied on partnering with the Bursar's office, the registrar's office, and UAir. Our partners at the Bursar's office helped us by coordinating with UAir and providing them a list of students who had enrolled in the payment plan across the last few years. UAir was then able to take the data and merge it with 3 specific characteristics that we aimed to look at. And we selected Pell eligibility, first generation status, and race and ethnicity. We selected these 3 attributes because they are not only our salient identities that Alexi shared, but they're also important attributes to consider when we think of the servingness framework and how it impacts underrepresented students. So we were able to obtain an aggregate data count for each of our 3 attribute buckets, which we then used to draw comparisons to the UA population as a whole. From looking at our 3 attributes individually, we found that there was at least a 5 percentage points difference between payment plan enrollees in that point in time and the UA population as a whole. While we found our preliminary data to be extremely insightful, we also believe there's opportunities to dive deeper for further research. Specifically, we think there's a really good opportunity to understand our data further by perhaps cross-tabulating it with our 3 buckets together and others that could be important to why students decide to opt into this fee. There's also the opportunity to look at financial aid processes and how those feed into the types of attributes that we're looking on across the spectrum. And lastly, we also believe really strongly in the power of the qualitative data that students can share with us about why they're deciding to opt into this fee and why is the reason that they needed to move forward so that we can perhaps discover other barriers that we can reduce for them. Overall, even with our preliminary data, we can implement some really high impact, low cost solutions right now. As a main theme, our recommendations are really rooted in opportunities for deeper understanding and additional information in regards to the intricacies of opting into the fee. We believe that expanded and formalized opportunities really help present students with all the information such as flowcharts and FAQs that could be excellent resources to help students better self-identify before going all the way there and opting all the way in. We hope to continue our work in this space, but above all, we really want to inspire other campus leaders to account for student data trends when implementing and iterating policies across campus, as it's hard to otherwise know what policies can negatively impact our student populations. So thank you for the ability to share our work.
Thank you so much to the both of you. I think that this team was quite remarkable. I always appreciate when our teams and also, teams outside of the HSI Fellows program, when they're able to kind of really examine policy and practices that really potentially either facilitate or impede and pose challenges to student success. And so I think that there's a lot of work at our Hispanic Serving Institutions that can be done by just examining some of the student-related data in connection to policy and practice. So I'm looking forward to this group's continued work with their key stakeholder partners and departments across campus to see what we can actually put in place to facilitate improved experiences around this fee. So thank you both for your contributions. Let's see. All right, so up next, we're going to invite Dr. Celeste Atkins, Dr. Noelle Hennessy, and Dr. Nicole Maroney to talk a little bit about their Grad Cafe project.
Hi, everybody. And on behalf of our whole team, I would really like to thank and acknowledge Dr. Franco and Dr. Marcus Kiyama and our other HSI Fellow cohort members, as well as the HSI Fellow alumni who really supported us throughout this past year in this project. So thank you all so much. And some of our other supporters are on this call today too, so thank you. Our project team came together across 3 different colleges here at the University of Arizona. And so Dr. Atkins is from the Graduate College, Dr. Hennessy from the College of Engineering, and I'm from the College of Science. And our project focused on funding and further developing a program that's housed in the Graduate College called Grad Cafe. And it stands for Graduate Communities for Academic Fellowship and Efficacy. So I'm going to share with you a little summary about the need for this program. And our team began our work together by reviewing some institutional data, similar to Alexi and Marla. And we have 3 key findings to share about student enrollment and retention among the graduate students from that work that we completed together. So first, we found that at the U of A, some underrepresented students are at greater risk for leaving the university after their first year of their doctoral program than their well-represented peers. And second, we found that some of the underrepresented doctoral students who do stay at the University of Arizona take longer on average to finish their doctorates than those who are represented. And third, we found that Black, Latino, and Native American doctoral students together comprise about 16% of the total number of doctoral students enrolled at the University of Arizona. So of course, this institutional data just gives us one piece of a snapshot of what's going on campus. So we were also interested in really how doctoral students are served and supported on campus. And so beyond these institutional data, our team also reviewed findings of a needs assessment that was conducted of minoritized students in the graduate college in the 2022-23 academic year. And that needs assessment identified the top needs among graduate students as being mentoring, community, non-academic socializing, and resources. And those resources included things like support for mental health and well-being, career services, and academic supports. So the second part of this slide shares really the foundational premise for the Grad Cafe program that relates to these combined needs. And the project idea was first conceptualized by Dr. Atkins, who'd been developing this concept for peer mentoring in collaboration with Dr. Franz Tax, who I see on this call as well, and Ms. Christina Kalel, who I think is also here. Thank you for joining us. And our HSI Fellows project team chose to focus on funding and building institutional support for a pilot of this peer mentoring program. And in our team's funding requests, we proposed that by providing holistic support of graduate students, including culturally responsive and multi-tiered mentoring, that we could address 3 important drivers of student persistence that have been proposed by Weiling-Packard, which are capacity, interest, and belongingness. So that's a brief summary of the foundations for Grad Cafe. And next, Dr. Hennessy is going to share with you a summary of our team's accomplishments and then future directions from Dr. Atkins. So thank you all so much. And next slide. Great. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maroney. So we spent this year really focusing on building out the bones for this program. and so that it can be implemented with a lot of thoughtful policy and practices, kind of having already been thought through, a lot of capacity being built, and with the aim towards sustainability for the foreseeable future. So a lot of what you'll see here is we did a lot of fundraising. We raised $22,000 to implement this program for the inaugural cohort, and that included a commission on the status of women mini grant, a contribution from the Office of HSI Initiative, TRIF, the College of Education, and then we also put together funding proposals that were for larger pots of money. So from the Provost Investment Fund, which was unfortunately unfunded this round, and an NSF Improving Graduate Education grant was submitted and is pending approval. So we'll see where that lands in the next month or so, we hope. We also just created the structure and the materials and for the delivery of the program for this year. And so rather than try to start the program and really just kick it off during our HSI Fellows inaugural, or our HSI Fellows cohort year, we really spent a lot of the time just developing the materials so that it could be launched with a lot of organization and intentionality this year. So we have the syllabus and course map. We've developed grad cafes, which are gatherings of students across the participating students, weekly class time for them to spend together, learning about many of the things that they indicated were needs in the needs assessment. Built out that course map of learning materials, the master D2L site that can be easily translatable across multiple instructors eventually. We branded the program with a beautiful logo that you see there, and recruited 12 community leaders, and I believe 32 participants or peer mentors for the fall semester, who will be our inaugural group participating in the program. We also submitted and were approved for research to collect and analyze data through the IRB. So that would be, a really exciting opportunity to not only learn about in a systematic in a systematic way about our program, but really be able to disseminate those findings across the nation to our peer institutions who can then hopefully be inspired and informed by this program. And so a lot of capacity building in this year. And now I'll hand it off to Dr. Atkins to speak on our next step.
Hi, excuse me. We are thrilled to report that our pilot launched this week. We're based out of the Graduate Center and are supported by graduate assistants Erica Zamora and Mohini Marquez, as well as the Graduate College Office of Diversity and Inclusion. While our goal was 60 students, we have a total of 42 students, 30 first and second year doctoral students from the Colleges of Education, Engineering, and Science, along with 12 community leaders who are doctoral students who have successfully completed their comprehensive exams from across the institution. These community leaders receive a stipend of $500 per semester for serving as near-peer mentors. So the students participate in a one-unit class. We had our first class sessions this week. The class is divided into 3 sections of up to 20 students and covers a variety of professional development topics. Each month, one class period is devoted to peer community meetings, which consist of 2 to 4 early career doctoral students grouped with a community leader. So this is their time to mentor each other, discuss the various topics addressed in class, along with any challenges they may be facing in a safe student-only space. Additionally, we will be having one-on-one mentoring sessions with them so that they also have a faculty or staff member that they can reach out to, hopefully that they feel safe with. Each month we'll have a cafecito, a 2-hour event that includes networking and community building for the entire cohort over dinner, along with professional development. Throughout this academic year, we'll have weekly team meetings and bi-weekly meetings with the community leaders to discuss progress and to adjust as necessary. We will collect short feedback surveys from each class period and event to help us understand what aspects of the program are most useful and what needs to be tweaked. Participants will also complete pre, mid, and post surveys. And at the end of the year, we hope to have focus groups. Summer of 2024 will be spent analyzing the data, reporting the findings, and updating and hopefully expanding the program. If we receive the NSF funding, we'll be able to expand to a cohort of 100 and add additional faculty mentoring. However, whether we receive the NSF grant or not, our goal is to find ways to permanently fund, institutionalize, and grow this program. We would like to see it offered to new doctoral students in all of the colleges. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much to this team. One of the things that I most appreciate about this project contribution to advancing a servingness is that it does so within the graduate student experience. I think that that is often an under kind of connected area as we think about mobilizing and advancing and inclusion across our Hispanic serving institutions that offer graduate degree programs. So I'm really excited to see this team and the work that they're doing. So thank you. Okay, so my apologies. I must have brought up the wrong, the not so recent, not nearly as recent. I had two. Hold on one second, because I want to make sure that we have Philip and Karina's project. Hold on one second. Philip, do you have it? Philip or Karina, do you happen to have, do you want to? I'll have to, otherwise I'll have to grab them from UA Box really quick.
I don't have them, but I can
Okay.
download them
My
too.
apologies.
I don't have them loaded on my computer either.
Okay,
Marla,
hold on.
I could screen share.
Okay, thank you so
Open from
much.
this morning. Yeah, no
I know
problem.
it's in our central box.
It'll just take me a second.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think they were the first two before.
Here we go.
There we go.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nicole.
Of course.
All right.
Does that work?
So
Okay.
looks good. Perfect. Okay, so I can get us started. Thank you all for hanging tight with us. So my name is Karina Salazar. I thank you all for being here to share some of the work that we've been doing over the last year. Philip and I formed one of the project teams around our mutual interest in work in recruiting prospective students into the university, and specifically on how we can drive recruiting practices to better embody HSI mission and values. And so if we go to the next slide. And so the U of A strategic plan outlines an imperative to institutionalize a commitment to Latinx advancement as part of our federal HSI designation, by way of supporting, well-informed efforts that could increase access and degree attainment for Latinx, but as well as for other marginalized students. And so Philip and I took a particular project focus to understanding how this imperative works within institutional efforts for discipline-specific recruiting, by which we mean efforts that are taking place outside, but perhaps connected to central admissions for increasing diversity into disciplinary fields such as teacher preparation, STEM areas, and of particular interest to Philip, the future music educators recruited into the School of Music and into the College of Fine Arts more broadly. And so we sought to really answer or to understand how discipline-specific recruiting efforts were carried out across campus, if and to what extent such efforts are aligned with HSI mission and values. And specifically, we aim to apply our findings to developing a recruiting outreach model for discipline-specific aims. And so we framed this need for this project around empirical scholarship that examines recruiting practices of public colleges and universities, particularly on how university recruiting efforts are really important determinants of post-secondary opportunities. We know that first-generation students, students of color, low-income students are particularly influenced to apply and enroll into colleges that take the time to essentially make them feel wanted by the institution, make them feel welcomed into the institution. But we know from empirical research that universities are less likely to target first-generation low-income students and students of color in these efforts. And so these recruiting disparities become particularly concerning when we are considering the diversity needs across disciplines, which are often addressed in sort of disciplinary silos across the institution, across campus, and that are not necessarily addressed within kind of broader, more general aims of recruiting within the central admissions office. And so Philip and I embarked on sort of a listening tour of speaking with staff across campus that had in some way duties and responsibilities that were tied to recruiting for specific disciplinary aims. These folks were all housed outside of central admissions. They worked within academic colleges, within particular schools and departments on the academic side of the house and the academic side of the university. And so we structured our interviews and our chats with these folks around questions of what were their recruiting priorities and goals within these roles? How were their goals different from central admissions? We also asked about their collaborations across campus with central admissions and other discipline-specific recruiting staff. And particularly, we asked kind of what can the institution do to better support your work in ways that align with HSI mission and values. And so some of the collective findings that we repeatedly heard and that many folks spoke to were this idea or this kind of culture of competition among disciplinary specific recruiting, which was largely attributed to the previous university financial model and the ways in which RCM distributes funding based on strict student credit hours and majors. And so oftentimes these recruiters felt very limited in what they could do because they had to kind of essentially worry about funding formulas. They also indicated that oftentimes they had feelings of having to essentially steal students from other colleges and universities in their work rather than focus on more equity-based aims. This culture of competition was also exacerbated by a lack of kind of formal and institutionalized equity goals and incentives for discipline-specific recruiting. Many folks indicated that they felt pressured to focus on numbers rather than kind of broader equity goals and aims, so much so that they often felt that they had to pursue recruiting practices that were very much aligned with HSI mission and values, and oftentimes their own professional and personal values, as sort of under the radar, because they could not justify these efforts under their current aims and goals and under their current sort of funding formulas for the position. And then lastly, many folks indicated a need for formalized collaborations and support structures for these recruiting aims. Many indicated that there was already some good partnership and collaboration with central admissions that provided some really critical areas where folks could learn about broader kind of financial aid and admissions processes from central admissions, but they felt that there was a lack of opportunity to then discuss discipline-specific recruiting needs and concerns back to kind of centralized processes and centralized administrations. And so they've kind of iterated this need for a formalized structure where folks across campus that are focusing on discipline-specific recruiting needs to formulate and collectively put together policies, practices, and committees that could further institutionalize this HSI mission and values into the sort of disciplinary work that they're doing within recruiting. And so all of these findings sort of motivated our outreach model that I will then turn it over to my colleague, Philip.
Thank you again for all being here today. I was excited to embark on this project with Karina, in part because we have very complementary abilities with regard to recruiting. Karina has an expertise in understanding the scholarship and the data surrounding how universities recruit, and I come at this topic more as a practitioner. As a member of the School of Music faculty, I actively go into public schools and private schools around the state to recruit students directly. Most of the students that I work with in my double bass studio, for example, I have a relationship from 1 to 6 years before they come to the university. These visits are often one-off, where I coordinate the visit with the teacher and I go in on my own. And this proposal sort of takes in mind that there could be much more teamwork or much more collaboration involved in how we recruit. This project also forced a lot of reflection for me. I wanted to look at where I've been going and ask myself if I was inadvertently contributing to some of inequitable recruiting practices and where I was going and the students that I was reaching. So this pilot program is for the College of Fine Arts, and it's a change in that there's not been a recruiting strategy that features a coordinated effort between the College of Fine Arts and the academic units working together as a whole. This pilot program proposes forming 3 to 4 artist in residence teams. Each team will be comprised of an arts practitioner, whether faculty or staff, and a student. These teams will visit a single high school for a minimum of 3 times per semester. And these visits really have 3 purposes. For the teams to share their artistic practice with the high school students, to build relationships and sound rapport with the high school students, with their teachers and the school administration, and also to be able to recruit students to the College of Fine Arts using equitable recruiting practices that take into account many of the financial, emotional, physical well-being, academic, and cultural realities common to many students in those districts. The purpose for these visits is not to supplant what the classroom teacher is already doing. We consider that those classroom teachers already have an expertise and a skill that they're necessarily providing to their students, but rather it's a chance to showcase what we're doing at the university and to show these students that what we do could be compelling and of interest to them. For me, participation by a student is really essential in a model like this, in that the high school students will have a positive and relatable role model as they consider a future university study. And that current university student will be considered an active part of the recruitment effort. To the left of my slide, you can see some guiding principles for this proposal. These really are the result of the findings that we had from our conversations with recruiters around campus. I wanted to learn from the challenges that the recruiters discussed, and I also wanted to capitalize on some of the best practices that we heard. For sustained presence, I wanted to show to these school districts that we are proposing this program to, that we're going to be there consistently, that it's not a transactional relationship that we're developing, but that we're going and returning back so they recognize our faces and know that we're a trusted partner in the community. I wanted to prioritize teamwork, and I think this is in several ways: teamwork between faculty, staff, and students who are going into the schools, but also teamwork between the schools within the College of Fine Arts and the College of Fine Arts recruiting team, as well as with central admissions, that what we're all doing is complementary with one another rather than trying to replace one another's work, that together as a team, we have more chance to have success in the schools. Building relationships, again, I think this is multifaceted. But really, I think it's important that we build relationships with districts where we have historically not been present, that we show that we're consistently there and interested in the well-being of those students. Strategic investment. I want to show that we're investing in these school districts that we haven't been to as much. And I also want to show that we're investing in faculty members, staff members, and students who are interested in doing strategic recruiting work. The recognition of the work is also important to me. It's one of the reasons why I want to title this Artist in Residence in the Pima County Public Schools, to show that any participant in this program is a valued member of the team. And hopefully this will encourage people to apply to the program and want to participate. At this point, this proposal is being discussed at different venues around the College of Fine Arts, including with our new recruitment team. And I see some of the members of that team here today, so thank you for coming. And it's very much a flexible proposal to try to find what will work for each of the units within the College of Fine Arts, and to try to form a new direction for how the College of Fine Arts does its recruiting. So I'm hopeful that some form of this proposal model will be put into place in the future, and that the outcomes could potentially be quite significant, especially for developing relationships with local districts, increasing interest in our programs in the College of Fine Arts with high school students. And I think there's a lot of potential here for funding, both at the university, but also externally with the National Endowment of the Arts, with many kinds of grantors that are around that value inclusive practices, equitable recruiting, and that value a community partnership. So thank you again. In the Q&A period, I will look forward to hearing from some of you if you have questions about our work.
Yeah, thank you both, Karina and Philip. This is, truly exceptional. I think that it certainly advances our opportunity, I think, to meet the challenge where equity has to be by design. So I really appreciate some of the guided conversations that you had across the academic colleges here at the University of Arizona to solicit input, to take the pulse of what folks felt within their respective units and what their experiences was, to really inform a recruitment model here for the College of Fine Arts. I love the ways in which it's already funneled into some very practical, informed utility for the college, and certainly look forward to partnering with you all to keep advancing that work. So thank you. We will be getting into the Q&A portion just briefly. I'm actually, if we want to, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Nicole. We're actually going to transition before we jump into Q&A. We really like to feature a few testimonials, really the grounding ourselves in the power of personal journeys. And so we actually are going to be hearing from a current cohort member, Dr. Alexi Marquez. We're also going to be hearing from one of our inaugural cohort members, Dr. Vanessa Perry. And I'm so excited as well for our third testimonial, who will be Dr. Elizabeth Gonzalez, one of my colleagues and dear friends from UCLA, who just had the opportunity at her institution to launch their inaugural HSI Fellows program. So I'm actually let's go ahead and stop sharing screen, and we'll just let Dr. Alexi Marquez and ask her to join us for a few minutes. Thank you.
Wonderful. I will keep my testimonial kind of brief, as I did give a lot about myself throughout the presentation. So what I was able to get as cohort 5 is I did come in a little guarded, be very, very honest. And the reason I came in a little guarded is because I have walked this line of being a native Tucsonan, growing up on the south side, moving to mid-Tucson, and knowing that there is a type of navigational capital that is needed when you set foot on a university campus. So as I have grown up, sounds really weird to say, but I did work in corporate America with Bank of America, and I was taught a very corporate way of presenting and working. Then moving into higher education, when I came back to the University of Arizona to complete my master's, I had this kind of clash of identities but I'm also a Chicana. So this feeling of being down and pushing against policies, but having a very structured, you need to follow policy work experience had me coming in a little bit guarded. But fortunately, in very early on in one of our meetings, Dr. Marla Franco brought back Elizabeth Soltero, who was a former Guerrero Center, which is the Latinx Hispanic cultural center here on campus, brought her back to talk to us. And then one of our next meetings, we had Selena Barajas, who is from LA, sat down, and this woman said, let's talk about generational wealth. And I was like, ooh, my ears perked up, and I was like, here we go. This is what I was made for. This is what I'm waiting for. And we had a really great conversation. And I was like, okay, so there are folks that are in the community that understand this navigational capital that we have to have in working for an institution, but being part and grounded in a community. So we DM'd each other on Instagram, and we eventually set up a meeting to talk about bringing a 6-series cafecitos, that is the word of the year, I think, back to the south side of Tucson in collaboration with the Sunnyside Foundation. So my first meeting is like, yes, this is the work I do. I'd love to just talk. Here's the the expertise, quote unquote, that I can bring. And I was like, I'm ready to volunteer. Let me know what times. These are my work hours. And Selena was like, hold it. We got a grant. We're down to pay you. And that was so nice to hear, because this work is typically volunteer, passion-based. So I was like, okay, awesome. So we did 6 cafecitos. We reflected on where to have this, each of these cafecitos. We started at American Eco. We had one here on at the Guerrero Center. We ended up at the Forge building downtown. We went to the YWCA and a few other places, and just being in community, but having these general yet very grounded conversations on financial movement. What does it mean to have generational wealth? Was just mind-boggling and very eye-opening. So I do thank the HSI Fellows program, Dr. Marla Franco, for allowing me to be part of this, because you did push me into a space where I could walk a line, not to quote Johnny Cash, but to be able to be vulnerable and not be so guarded, and to be able to wear dual hats. Because what I typically do is I will put on a hat and say, this is who I am right now, and then switch hats when I want to be a certain persona or identity that I want to be most salient at that time. And the ability to mesh those identities in community, in a safe space, has really been validating of the work that I hope to do with financial aspects, with financial wellness, and being part of the U Arizona community. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Marquez, for your willingness to just be, I think, an active force within cohort 5 of the HSI Fellows program. But then most importantly, I think just getting to see your engagement with these community partners. I love seeing you being featured in those series. Every time I would see the promotional materials circulated, I was just so proud to have you really leverage your expertise and your lived experience and connect with the community in that way. So thank you. Up next is Dr. Perry. We'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Marla. So when I applied to be part of the inaugural class of HSI Fellows, I was so enthusiastic, and I really wanted to focus on the graduate degree attainment disparity of Latinxes. I didn't have a single Latinx professor during my master's or doc programs. My personal experience definitely aligned with the data. I felt pretty sheepish about my personal ability to facilitate meaningful change as a fellow, a bit of imposter syndrome, I suppose. But nonetheless, I dove headfirst into my project, which was developing a holistic admissions toolkit that was really aimed at promoting better outreach and admission of Latinx graduate students. I left the end of my fellowship feeling so energized, and I returned to my unit, which is a master's degree in counseling, PhD in counselor education and supervision, feeling changed and energized. And I led my colleagues in revamping admissions for my program and also my department. We have super diverse graduate students in our department, so much so that the former provost actually reached out to my department head to ask, what are you guys doing? How do you have such diverse students? So it's been great to see some of our work have immediate outcomes. Over the years since my HSI Fellows participation, I've collaborated with HSI colleagues and DEI experts, and that's really yielded some finely tuned grad admissions practices. And I would dare say this whole toolkit that I've even taken on the road with me. Because of all of the research and practice that I put together in this toolkit, I felt like, you know what, these are some tools that don't do me any good to just keep them here locally in my unit. So I applied to present at the ASI conference, the Alliance of HSI Educators conference, and I presented my toolkit. And while I was there, I connected with other HSI colleagues at the University of Central Florida College of Nursing. They have an HSI funded grant. And so I traveled all the way to Orlando, and I provided some training and technical support to UCF colleagues. And this work, the work that was inspired by my participation in the HSI Fellows program, is so tremendously more timely now, given the SCOTUS decision on affirmative action. And I think it's going to continue to be an area where we need to innovate in order to advance our HSI soberness in grad programs. So this year, I'm excited to report that my master's and PhD programs where I work have rolled out an adversity scale. So that's modeled after the one that the UC Davis Medical School uses, which is the most diverse medical school in the US. And so that asks questions like if someone was a Pell Grant recipient, how many hours they worked during high school, not for their own personal funding, but to contribute to their household. So these questions that get at a lot of the obstacles and barriers that the next students might face, but still works within the parameters that a lot of states like Arizona, Florida, that have a state ban on affirmative action, and also works within the federal ban on affirmative action. So I guess the wisdom I would also love to impart is that the power of your experience, knowledge, and expertise as an HSI fellow cannot be underscored enough. You are all change agents now, exactly as you are.
Thank you so much, Dr. Perry. I had obviously the opportunity to be a part of really launching that inaugural cohort, not really knowing, right, what this project-based component would flourish to be. And so it's just been exceptional to see your passion and your interest and your expertise really flourish towards developing some concrete tools and recommendations that you now have put on the road. And I had the opportunity to attend that conference where Dr. Perry presented in the spring. And just what a proud moment I had to be a participant, to see her present her work. And after that presentation, I told her, I was like, people are going to be calling you. People are going to want more. And so sure enough, she, was contacted by University of Central Florida, where I have another close Aussie colleague and friend. And I said, Vanessa, like, we've got to share this out more broadly. So certainly looking forward to our continued partnership. And thank you so much for advancing the work within graduate admissions as well. So next up, I'd like to invite my colleague and dear friend, Dr. Elizabeth Gonzalez.
Buenos dias. Great to see you, Marla. Thank you for the invitation to share a little bit about the impact that this HSI Fellows program is having, I would say, across the HSI landscape in the nation. I want to say congratulations to the fifth cohort, but also the past cohorts that we continue to see the impact of this work in advancing equity and social justice. So I serve as the inaugural director for HSI initiatives at UCLA's Office of the Chancellor. We are an emerging HSI on Tongva land. And we are. This is my first year in this role, and the first question, the most asked question of me is, how can I support? And so it was clear to me from day one that there is a need to spread the work of HSI across the fabric of UCLA, and to invest in capacity building so that the work can be advanced in all aspects of the campus, right? And this is something that Dr. Marla Franco always talks about, is the capacity building. And so I actually attended this same presentation last year around this time, I think it was. And I had heard about the program through some of the presentations that Dr. Marla had given at various conferences. And so I had heard about the model, but it was coming to this presentation that I just said, like, we need to have this, like the level of impact that one person or two people can have is just the ripple effect. And so this really inspired me to go back to UCLA and say, okay, how can we develop something inspired by the HSI Fellows program at the University of Arizona, but that is also tailored for our own needs at our own campus. And so I partnered with our Institute of American Cultures, our Center for Chicano Studies Research. And we spent some time developing the curriculum, like what kind of sessions and what kind of speakers do we want to bring, what would be the purpose of this project. And so we had actually our inaugural cohort in early August, some of who are here today, actually, Enrique Aragon, and I see Krista Loretta as well. They are part of the BRAVE inaugural cohort. We had small teams of, I see Yvonne Caro on here as well. So the level of commitment that these members have to the work, and really it's investing about in grassroots leadership. So we had 5 teams from the development office, a team from the School of Medicine, a team from the School of Nursing, alumni and career. And so we just finished the program, the first part of the program, and now these teams are going back together to work on a project on their own. And so we'll be following up with them to guide them and coach them through that process. And so I share that as a way to say, if any of you are inspired like I was by this work at the University of Arizona, that you give it a shot and you develop a curriculum that is tailored to your campus and where you are as an HSI. And it's doable. And Marla has always been so generous and such a great colleague to bounce ideas off of. So thank you, Dr. Franco, for everything that you do and for inspiring change across the U.S.
Well, thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. It is pretty remarkable, I think, to have seen your leadership and really some of the very initial efforts that are sprouting at UCLA. I know that most certainly similar to U of A's history, there are certainly generations worth of advocacy and action that have taken place that builds upon you're able to build upon those efforts. And so it's, welcome to the fellows, the inaugural fellows at UCLA. It's so wonderful to have you and share space with you. We can't wait to be attending your presentations, hopefully one day, and hear about the change that you initiate and the equity that you center as part of your inquiry and practice at UCLA. So thank you to our three guests and fellows for those testimonials. I think it adds a real personal connection and kind of cultural grounding as we engage in these presentations to help showcase some of the work that we're doing. So now I actually want to open it up in our remaining time for, questions, comments, thoughts. Certainly can be directed at, any particular person, or just, some of the observations that you're having as you've listened in this morning. But please feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand, and we can kind of go about this and engage you all a bit. So happy to open it up. Let's hear from you.
Start. Just want to say each presentation is causing me to think about, how do we take what you've done here and not just think about it related to students, but again, how do we think about it in recruiting for faculty, or in recruiting for staff, or in the capacitas, the whole everything here. So I will be following up to learn more and see where we can go as a university. And I know I'll be sharing all this with Elena Rodriguez, our Senior Vice President and Chief Human Resources Officer as well. So thank you all. Inspiring.
Yes, thank you, Diane. Others?
I have a question, and this can be for any of the fellows who wants to answer. I'm just curious, how do you see the work that you've been doing moving forward, right? Like no longer being maybe actively participating in the fellows program, but how do you all envision the work that you did, or what you learned really informing the work that you currently do, or the work you would like to do at the U of A?
I'll go ahead and start. A couple of things. One of the reasons I wanted to be part of this is because I think the perception is HSI is just for the Latino community, and it's really not. It's for all underrepresented groups. And as a Black woman, I felt it was important to sort of represent that. And I've been really, really lucky that my dean and the dean of the graduate college have been really supportive. The College of Science and the College of Ed and the College of Engineering have been really supportive. And so I am very hopeful about instituting Grad Cafe and building it as we go along. I know that at least my supervisor and my college are invested in doing that. And so it's also a great way to learn how to write grants. It's the first NSF grant I've ever written. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity. And in fact, beyond Grad Cafe, Dr. Maroney and I are collaborating on a class, and Philip taught me some wonderful stuff about homes and mortgages. And so it was just a wonderful opportunity all the way around for me.
I can chime in there just because Dr. Atkins gave me a nice shout out about the course that we're co-developing for speech, language, and hearing sciences. So we are creating a new required course for students in our clinical professional programs, both for the master's degree in speech language pathology and also the doctoral program, the Doctor of Audiology degree, about diversity, inclusion, and health equity that impacts our clinical professions. So I'm very excited to co-teach that with her, and hopefully we're getting our course proposals for that curriculum revision in this fall, and so we'll be excited to launch that next academic year.
Very exciting. Yes. Other thoughts, comments, questions, observations? I invite anyone. It looks like there's a question in chat. Let's see. So regarding the recruitment practices presentation, have there been any talks or thoughts about the recruitment and inclusion of transfer students? So any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I can answer that one. So I think in my broader work with recruiting, we have talked about transfer students, particularly working with the local community college, PIMA, in creating greater networks and articulation agreements around transfer. I think for the presentation that we particularly provided today, it's more focused on building relationships with K-12 schools, specifically around sort of music education, because I think I'm digging through the chat as well to see some of the other questions, but particularly around because those sorts of talents and gifts are cultivated for students at a very early age. We're trying to capture students in earlier pipelines and ensuring that they're aware that the pathway to the university is very much a possibility, and we're trying to cultivate those relationships. I think in some of the other work that I'm doing that I didn't mention here, we're certainly thinking about transfers and other populations.
Well, and just to add on to that, thank you, Mercedes, for that question. For Karina and Philip, the Thrive Center does host, has a transfer student center on the 4th floor. So we do have a space, and we know that transfer students are going to be, in the next couple of years, the majority of the students coming in outside of first years. So as a whole, we could get in front of this, looking at the policies, maybe the difficult, I say difficult pathways, because typically students coming from transfer, other community colleges have things in one place, and the university is not one of those areas where everything is tightly or like nicely packaged in one place. So how it's already built to how students can navigate it is something that's really important for transfer students.
I can contribute a little here too. I know at the School of Music, there are many people in our building who have relationships with community colleges, including Director Wiest, who is in this meeting today. I do think we have a lot of work to do, especially for retaining and recruiting these students. So one of the big things that I learned was that we have Thrive Center and that we have all of these resources that are already at the university. So I thank you, Alexi, for introducing me to all that you're doing there. And I think we need to do a better job at some of our schools and colleges of connecting students with resources that already exist at the university.
Yes, thank you all for, those questions and comments. I think that you can also observe just the level of peer mentorship that happens within a cohort of HSI Fellows, as well as across cohorts of HSI Fellows. So it ends up being this mega exponential ripple effect that continues to resound throughout the program and beyond. So on behalf of the HSI Fellows program across all 5 cohorts, I want to thank you for participating in today's impact presentations. We are excited to share with you all that although we have put on hiatus the recruitment of a new cohort, we are actually taking some intentional time to pause and be reflective about the personal and professional impact that this program has had on participants, as well as really come to better understand the impact and contributions that it's made to the university and local community. And so we're taking time to really be reflective and really gather some input and data on that. We are excited, though, to launch a new initiative called UA Ambassadors. And that is, I think, perhaps a more accessible entry point for engagement, as the Fellows does require a year-long commitment. And Interestingly, we receive far more interest in the program than we can accommodate each year. So the U of A HSI Ambassadors Program, we're going to pilot that this coming year. And we have a new cohort of U of A HSI ambassadors that we're going to start engaging next week. And we've got 4 touch points throughout the academic year, but we hope to mobilize that group in ways that are, I think, new and innovative and provide a sense of connection and mobility across the university to really initiate and strengthen equity-focused localized change. And so that program will engage, once again, faculty and staff, but I think a new exciting addition to the experience is that we've accepted graduate students as well, and have them be an aim of who's engaged in the process. So I can't wait to circle back to our larger community in a year from now and share with you both the continued contributions that the HSI Fellows continue to make, as well as that of our U of A HSI ambassadors. So once again, thank you all for joining us. I equally am inspired by you all and the work that you're doing, and I can't wait to continue to be in community with you all to advance this work, not only at the University of Arizona, but certainly to inspire, collaborate, and be co-conspirators in this work across the nation. So thank you all, and hope to see you all next year. Bye.